Hi, I'm Marie, and I'm 30 years old. I've been married to my husband, Sam, for 4 years. We really wanted to have kids right after we got married, but it just didn't happen for us. The doctors checked me out, and everything seemed fine, but Sam wasn't keen on getting checked himself. So we kind of gave up trying for a baby. Sometimes I wondered what might happen if Sam went for tests and treatment, but I realized that having a child isn't the only path to happiness. I never pushed him to go to the doctor. I work as an architect at a construction company, and I love what I do. My salary is good, and I find my job really fulfilling. So I started thinking that not having kids might be okay. Sam works for the government, and while he earns less than me, his job is stable. We have a great life together. We enjoy doing things we love, eating tasty food, and going on trips every now and then. That's Sally, my sister, calling me from outside the house with her sweet, pleading voice again. It's way too early for anyone to be dropping by, especially on a weekday. With a sigh, I made my way to the front door. Can you stop coming over so early? I'm sorry, but I've got something going on. Can you take care of Annie again? I looked after her just the other day, remember? Please, I need your help. Sally, who's 3 years younger than me, became a mom to Annie 4 years ago through a sudden marriage that didn't last long. Now she's raising Annie on her own. Lately, she's been relying on me to babysit several times a week for even the smallest reasons. It's urgent. I had no other choice, right? I have work too, but you're working from home, Marie. Just let her nap next to you, please, she asked, already placing Annie's things at the door as if it's already decided. Feeling unable to say no, I sighed and agreed to watch my niece. Thanks, I'll pick her up later, Sally said happily as she left. She was dressed up, wearing a short skirt. I wondered what she was up to. Watching her walk away in her high heels, I felt a mix of emotions. My 4-year-old niece is such a calm and easy child to care for. Sometimes she gets a bit teary, but her adorable smile makes everything better. Even though I thought having kids wasn't in the cards for us, spending time with her made me realize just how precious little ones can be. It saddens me to see her mom, my sister Sally, leaving her with me so often. I've mentioned to Sally that it's not ideal to leave her daughter so frequently, but I'm still happy to look after my niece. When Sally came to pick her up later that evening, she didn't even offer an apology. She just took her daughter and left in a hurry. Then my husband arrived home, and Sally left her child with us again for the day. I tried to talk to my husband about my day, but he seemed disinterested and barely responded. I understand that being a single mom is tough for Sally, but I also feel like my husband should be more supportive. He brushed off the conversation and went to take a shower. That's when I noticed his phone buzzing on the table, something he usually never leaves unattended. Curious, I glanced at the screen and saw that the caller was Sally. Confused, I wondered why she would be calling him. Before I could think too much about it, my husband returned and quickly grabbed his phone, rushing off to the bathroom. I tried to brush it off, but the message from Sally lingered in my mind. I need to see you urgently. Was Sally messaging my husband? Could he be cheating on me? These thoughts raced through my mind, but I couldn't find any solid answers. Since then, I never had another opportunity to check his phone. I'm feeling a bit peckish. Oh, sorry, sweetheart, I got distracted, I said as I lifted my niece into my arms. She looked up at me with those innocent eyes, melting my heart. If Sally is really having an affair with my husband, it means she's putting her desires ahead of her own child. How could she abandon such an adorable little girl? If my suspicions are true, I don't know if I could ever forgive either Sally or my husband. Here are the findings from the investigation. Thank you, I said, trying to steady my voice as I accepted the report from the detective agency I had hired. The results confirmed my worst fears. My husband was indeed having an affair. It hit me like a ton of bricks, but I managed to hold back my tears. I had mentally prepared myself for this moment. As it turned out, my husband and Sally were deeply involved in this affair. It wasn't just a one-time mistake or a brief lapse in judgment. They had been meeting several times a week, going to great lengths to cover their tracks. Looking back, I recalled how my husband, typically punctual and returning home from his government job, suddenly started working late on the days Sally brought my niece over. He always had some excuse ready to defend Sally's actions when she left her child with us. Why hadn't I noticed these patterns before? They both often came home at the same time, but I never connected the dots until now. Receiving the report, I was overwhelmed with uncertainty about what steps to take next. Should I confide in my parents or confront both of them? But before anything else, my niece came to mind. You're having an affair, aren't you? I confronted my husband abruptly, catching him off guard. What? No, what are you talking about? Don't spout nonsense, he retorted, clearly taken aback by my accusation. You're cheating with Sally, aren't you? I pressed, my certainty leaving him visibly flustered, his eyes darting around as if searching for an escape from the truth. Too late, I already know everything. Let's get a divorce, I declared firmly, his face flushed with anger at being labeled as the lowest of the low. But as I confronted the reality of my husband's affair with Sally, a cold numbness overtook me. I felt indifferent, detached from the situation. Both Sally and my husband seemed despicable for their betrayal. Despite being entitled to compensation in a divorce court, I couldn't bear the thought of my niece suffering. So I made the decision not to pursue compensation from Sally and to keep the affair a secret from our parents. Let me think about it. It's all so sudden, my husband replied, trying to regain his composure. Reluctantly, I agreed to give him time to process everything. Little did I know, it was a mistake. The next day, he didn't return home at his usual time. I waited anxiously, wondering if he and Sally were scheming something together. Despite my concerns, I chose to wait without reaching out to him. I was startled by the sound of a child crying nearby. Stepping outside, I couldn't believe what I saw. Annie, my niece, wrapped in a blanket, stood alone in front of my house, looking lost. My heart sank as I watched Sally and my husband speed away in their car. I hesitated for a moment, torn between chasing after them and staying with Annie, who was crying inconsolably. In the end, I couldn't leave her behind, so I stayed and watched their car disappear into the distance. How could they abandon a child like that? What if something terrible had happened to Annie while they were gone? The mere thought sent chills down my spine, filling me with anger towards the two people who could so callously neglect their responsibilities. They weren't human, they were monsters. As I lifted Annie into my arms, I noticed several papers bundled up with her blanket. Among them were divorce papers with my husband's signature and letters from both him and Sally. They apologized for their actions, expressing their love for each other and their desire to be together. They left Annie in my care. Reading those words filled me with a tumult of emotions, frustration, anger, and a profound sense of betrayal. Unable to contain my feelings any longer, I broke down in tears, overwhelmed by the sudden and drastic turn of events. I decided to confide in my parents about everything that had unfolded, including Annie being abandoned. They rushed over as soon as they could. Through tears, I showed them the evidence of Sally and my husband's affair, explaining the whole situation. Mom hugged me tightly, offering comfort, while Dad's hands trembled with anger. "What's your plan now?" Dad asked, his voice tense with emotion. "I'm filing for divorce," I replied firmly. "Good, that's the right decision. We'll need to discuss this with your husband's parents as well," Dad insisted. My parents were determined to sever ties with Sally. They made it clear that even if she sought refuge with them, they wouldn't offer any help. "Annie is our precious granddaughter. We'll take care of her," Dad declared, his gaze resting on Annie, who was peacefully sleeping. Mom's eyes were downcast, tears welling up. "No, I'll take care of her," I asserted, my decision unwavering. "You don't have to do that. Consider what they've done." "You don't owe them anything," Mom urged, concerned that I might be swayed by Sally and my husband's letters. But my resolve was firm. "Annie is incredibly dear to me. I see her as my own child. I want to adopt her," I explained. My parents seemed troubled but respected my decision. They assured me of their support and urged me to consult them whenever needed, which brought me some comfort. The next day, I decided to inquire about my husband's whereabouts at his workplace, only to discover that he had already resigned. I was certain he had vanished without a trace. When I checked our bank account, it was wiped clean. I couldn't help but be impressed by how swiftly he had managed to empty it all in just one day. However, only a small portion of the money, which was in an account my husband had easy access to, had been withdrawn. The rest of our savings were safely tucked away in another account. I had made the decision to transfer the funds as a precaution, and now I was grateful for that foresight. It was a small move on my part, but it saved us from financial ruin. I also reached out to Sally's ex-husband, hoping he might want to be involved in his daughter's life, but he showed no interest. It pained me to think about my niece's situation, but I was determined to give her all the love and care she deserved. After finalizing my divorce, I officially adopted my niece. Together, we embarked on a fresh start in a new location. Life presented its challenges, but it was also filled with joy. My niece taught me the highs and lows of parenthood, and as the years went by, I cherished every moment, especially the day she called me Mom for the first time. Despite the hardships we faced, the love I felt for my daughter gave me strength to persevere. Balancing work and parenting, a decade flew by in the blink of an eye. Then on the day my daughter turned 14, I received an unexpected call on my cell phone. Mom, there's a call for you, my daughter called from the other room. Okay, I replied, glancing at the screen, which displayed only a phone number. I wondered who could be calling. Curiosity piqued, I answered, and a familiar voice greeted me from the other end. Hi Marie, it's Sally. It's been a while. It was Sally. Even after all these years, she spoke as if nothing had changed. Her casual tone made their sudden reappearance feel surreal. Mom, are you okay? My daughter asked, concern evident in her voice. Yes, I'll handle it, but you should stay back. Can you call Grandma and let her know Sally's here? Phil, do you understand? I instructed my daughter, sensing the seriousness of the situation. She nodded firmly and quickly made the call to my mom. As she did, I closed the door to the living room, preparing myself for what was to come, and then opened the front door to confront Sally. I knew you were here. This isn't acceptable. You're disturbing the neighbors, I stated firmly as I faced Sally, who stood on my doorstep. Well, you took forever to answer the door. Isn't that right? Sally retorted casually. It's been too long. Behind Sally, my ex-husband stood awkwardly, a surprise I hadn't anticipated. The two of them, who I hadn't seen in a decade, looked different. My ex-husband appeared worn out, while Sally seemed to be trying to maintain a youthful appearance but instead appeared older than her years. I'm not comfortable with this sudden visit. Please leave. I came for my daughter. Is she here? I demanded. Stop. You're not coming in. I interrupted firmly. Why? She's my daughter. If you don't let us in, I'll have to call the police. This is trespassing, Sally argued. What? Sally's irritation at my firm refusal was evident as she raised her voice towards the house. Hey Annie, you're in there, right? Stop this nonsense. Why are you interfering? Do you really think you're her real mom, Marie? You're nothing but a fraud. I'm the one who carried her in my womb and gave birth to her. A real mom is obviously superior. I wanted to retort to remind Sally of her decade-long absence and abandonment of Annie, but I hesitated, considering that my daughter might still harbor some curiosity about her biological mother. With that in mind, I found myself at a loss for words. Seeing my hesitation, Sally laughed triumphantly and pushed past me, striding into the house. Annie, Mom. Ha, you've grown up. I'm your real mom, Sally declared. Confused by the sudden intrusion, my daughter looked at Sally with a mix of fear and uncertainty. Sensing my daughter's unease, Sally's expression twisted into one of displeasure. Has this woman been filling your head with lies about me? It's all untrue. She's the one who took you from me and pretended to be your mom. I'm your real mother, Sally insisted, her gaze shifting from me to my daughter. My daughter, angered by Sally's attitude, exclaimed, Liar. Yes, your aunt is the real liar, not me, Sally retorted. What? My daughter pointed directly at Sally, stunning both of us with her unexpected outburst. Do you know how old I am? I'm almost 16, not 15. My mom raised me all these years, but she never told me about you. Still, I remember a little about you. Both Sally and I were speechless as my daughter continued. I remember you yelling at me, not giving me food. What? I never did such a thing, Sally denied vehemently. You're not my mom. I have only one mom, not the one who gave birth to me, but the one who cared for and loved me. That's this mom, my daughter declared, pointing at me with conviction. My daughter gripped my sleeve tightly, and a surge of emotion overwhelmed me, threatening to spill tears. What? Sally exclaimed in frustration, her hand lifting as if to strike. Instinctively, I moved to shield my daughter, but Sally's movement abruptly halted. Dad, it's you. My husband had returned without my notice, and he swiftly intervened, grasping Sally's arm and preventing any harm. Informed of the situation, he understood that Sally was the aggressor, while my ex-husband stood bewildered nearby, watching with a sharp gaze. Are you both all right? my husband asked calmly, his reassuring presence bringing a sense of relief to my daughter and me. Yes, we both replied, reassured by the steadiness in his eyes. You were married. My ex-husband, who had failed to intervene in Sally's violence, was taken aback. That's none of your concern, I responded firmly. How dare you remarry without me? You left me and vanished after the divorce, remember? My ex-husband's accusatory tone was met with stern gazes from both my husband and me, leaving him speechless. What? Marie remarried? Living in this grand house with a husband? This is absurd. I took everything from her. Why does she seem happy? Sally's voice cracked as she screamed, her disheveled hair adding to her erratic appearance. These people have treated Mom horribly. My mom is only my mom, my typically reserved daughter passionately defended me. It's all right, stay here with Mom. Your parents are here too. We'll sort this out, my husband assured us, his gentle touch steadying me as I realized I was trembling uncontrollably. My husband escorted Sally and my ex-husband outside, their voices filled with nonsensical shouts. Mom, are you okay? My daughter's concern was evident in her voice. I'm sorry, I should have talked to you. I apologize, feeling a pang of regret. No, it's okay. I never told you either. I remembered my biological parents and thought you might be disappointed. If only I had done the right thing, I wouldn't have made you feel so insecure, my daughter admitted, her words heavy with remorse. I know you kept silent thinking of me. Me, I replied, tears streaming down my face as we embraced each other tightly. Fear, relief, and happiness mingled together as we cried together, the weight of the recent events finally released. Sally and my ex-husband were sternly reprimanded by my husband and parents for their unreasonable behavior. Despite their persistent attempts to reclaim my daughter, their motives were purely self-serving. My daughter's biological father, Sally's ex-husband, had recently passed away, leaving behind a significant inheritance for Annie, his legitimate daughter. Sally and my ex-husband sought to gain control of my daughter in pursuit of this inheritance. Sally, desperate for money, sought refuge at her parents' home, only to be turned away and ostracized. Though my daughter discovered the truth in a painful manner, she bravely accepted it and forged ahead. With the unwavering support of my loving daughter and devoted husband, I realized that family goes beyond blood ties. Our bond is rooted in love and resilience, surpassing any genetic connection. As I prepared breakfast with my daughter on a Sunday morning, I couldn't help but feel overwhelmed with gratitude for our happiness and the strength of our family bond.